Hello, my name is Natalia.
My name is Bethany.
I'm Laura.
This is Codex Machina. This is a podcast where we discuss reading, publishing, and all things books.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Codex Machina. Today we have some special guests in our virtual studio, and I'm very happy to welcome Celine, Kock, and Lena, Ryzhova. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. You are editorial team members for TXT, the University of Leiden magazine. And can you tell us a little bit more about your involvement with TXT?
Yeah, so Celine and I are both editors-in-chief. We have quite a big group of students this year, so we have decided to have two editors-in-chief. And Celine is more in touch with the content of the journal, with the editing part, and I'm more in touch with the process for printers and all that kind of organizational stuff. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and we are both studying book and digital media studies in Leiden, and the journal is part of our program every year. A cohort of students, not everyone, but people who volunteer, can join the editorial board and sort of make the journal.
So this year's theme for the magazine is Community of Memory. So if I get it right, TXT has a new theme every year. How do you choose what to talk about every year?
Well, basically every cohort gets to decide completely freely. So what we came up with is actually a combination of community and memories, because half of us wanted to have community as a topic, just a sole topic, because we felt like that's really important in our current day and age. It's really prevalent, but also fan fiction actually came up a lot during our presentations, during our talks. And we felt that's a very interesting topic. But the other half of us wanted to talk about memories, because books have such a rich and beautiful history, and they wanted to highlight it. So when we came together and presented our topics, we were like, oh, they both sound great. Let's just put them together. And then we actually had to think about what that new topic means to us, because it's really a combination, but it's also a topic in itself. Yeah, and honestly, it's up for interpretation. Like, I think every one of us interprets it a little bit different. It's kind of a complicated topic, I'm not gonna lie. Like, we've had some issues coming up with a consensus of how it works, but I think all of our articles have done a great job incorporating it.
I just had to comment, what a democratic process for choosing a topic. And it sounds really difficult to manage a whole team where everyone is getting that much input. How do you guys make these major decisions? Does everybody have equal say? Do you guys kind of at any point just kind of have to put your foot down?
Well, so in our team, we have 13 members, which is the biggest cohort of the biggest editorial board that has ever been for TXT. And in the beginning, we could have say what we want to do, if we want to be in the design team, if you want to be in the editing team, because people have different preferences. Also, people have different experience because, for example, we have already people that publish their work, so they were more experienced in that aspect. And kind of me and Celine stepped up as, oh yeah, we want to kind of be in charge of this. And then we divided everyone into design team, editing team, PR team, and I think we also have a separate team for a launch event that we will have in September. And then each team has their leader. In case of editing team, it's also Celine. So the person in the lead of the team kind of has the main say. And then Celine and I can veto every decision basically. But so far, I think what's really great is that we all have kind of similar taste and similar interests. Also, I guess because we're studying similar stuff. So far we haven't had any major conflicts regarding what we want to do, what we want to include in the article, in the articles in the journal, what we want it to look like, and so on.
Well, that's nice, because the first issue of Satura, Nat and I kind of had what you'd call a dictatorial board. It was us and our decisions. And okay, we did take people's thoughts into account, but we were pretty put our foot down quite a bit, because I think that was the only way to get the project going, really.
It was also our first time doing something like that, being in charge of a team, basically in that respect, working on everything from really editorial choices to layout, marketing quotation marks, like bringing us to the readers. That was a lot of new things, and I feel like we just really needed ourselves a little bit of this like control, feeling like we have it, we got it, we can do this. And that also usually happened like at 3 a.m. in the morning, like 10. Work-life balance was not a thing. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, I think it's what I find the most challenging. I don't know how this works, Lane, because she does manage the content and I manage the outside stuff. But oh my God, so many emails I have to send at like 2 a.m. So many reminders asking people to do the stuff that they were supposed to do. And kind of depending on the like where we are in the process, each team has like there's more spotlight on them. And then I have to remember, oh, okay, so now we're focusing on the editing team, but I also cannot forget the design team. And also we do have to remember that we have a PR team and that they also have to do something. And then we also have a professor from the Book and Digital Media Studies program that's supervising us. And also I have to notify him about every like important development. But he also doesn't answer all of his emails, and sometimes he's also busy. And then sometimes you realize, oh God, you're on your own, and it's 3 a.m. and you have to make like some important decision before tomorrow, and you're like panicking, texting the group chats. So yeah, I think in that regard it's challenging, but I guess all group projects are challenging because everyone has their life. Also, this is like a voluntary project. So kind of because we also have like internships and theses and finals and midterms, it kind of takes a like backseat for a lot of people all the time. So you kind of have to remind everyone that now we do have to deliver a product, even if it might not be convenient for everyone at this moment.
I also think because the idea of TXT is that everyone who's involved gets real life experience in the field. So we don't really want to take too much power for us or like make too many decisions ourselves because we want everyone to experience like all of it. So I think it's sometimes a bit difficult to do we ask everyone if this title is okay and like when do we make the decision ourselves and when do we ask the whole team? But I think so far we're doing pretty okay.
I wondered real quick, who is the faculty advisor this year? I think the ones we knew were Professor Vanderveel.
Probably also mispronouncing the name.
Yeah, and Eric Quackel, I think, was once the advisor, but I don't know. I think they're not at Leiden anymore. So who is it now?
This year it's Peter Verhaar, it's our digital studies professor.
It's the 12th edition of TXT, which is, I think, amazing and incredible, and that's great. What does it mean for you to continue such a project? How do you feel working on something that's got this history in the department now and is 12 editions on?
Well, we first of all feel like extremely honored to be able to continue this tradition creative in our program. And as you said, it will be 12th edition of TXT. And before that, there were a couple issues of journal named Yap. So it's kind of like extremely fascinating looking back at all previous issues and sort of seeing how they reflect specific interests of individual cohorts that created them, because they reflect not only external circumstances. For example, the issue that was released during pandemic was called Pandemic Papers, and it has this sort of very topical cover with the person with a face mask on. But then you also realize that every decision that must have been made by the students. So in a way, it's also a unique product that reflects their individual taste, even if the articles are written by different people. And we do have like a lot of creative control with it. It does depend on the sponsor, but we decide what we want the journal to look like. And I personally find it very touching that maybe in like 20 or 30 years, if we live that long, we can look back into it or like show it to our children and be like, oh, that was a style back in the day. This for Coachella 2016, So it's a privilege that we have something to show off for the years that we are here.
Definitely. I think it's something to be proud of, and it's a great project, both from, I think, an educational standpoint, but also just practical experience. I feel like there's a lot of instances where students just don't get practical experience anymore, and I think doing a journal is a great way to do that if you're interested in print and publishing.
Yeah, for sure. I also kind of felt this really strong sense of responsibility because I also got to take an issue of Satura as the editor-in-chief one year. Natalia and Laura kind of trusted me with their baby, and I, in the beginning, had this really strong sense of I can handle this with a work-life balance. I can handle my classes and do this in my free time, and everybody's gonna, be fine with deadlines and all of these things. And then came the big one, which was that we didn't have anybody on the team who wanted to do layout for the journal. So I had to do that as well as being the editor-in-chief. I did the layout myself, and that whole work-life balance thing kind of went right out the window. I think I put something like 150 hours of work into it in the month of September, trying to get it out for October. And so that kind of transitions us into my question for you guys is what has been like maybe the biggest challenge you guys have had with getting the issue community of memories going?
I think for me, it's setting deadlines, to be honest, because we've had to push some deadlines back, and it's so stressful to be like, oh my God, like how far back can we go? Is everyone gonna be ready until these deadlines? And how many deadlines do we need? Because there's so many different steps. Yeah, that's, I think for me, been the most difficult one.
Yeah, for me, I think it's organizing everyone because, as I said, everyone has their life going on and other responsibilities that they have to do. So you kind of don't want to be so despotic to like force everyone to do this, especially because it's a volunteer project. But also, you do have to deliver at one point. So you kind of have to put your foot down and be like, okay, yeah, no, this has to be done by next week. You guys might hate me by the end of this year, but this has to be done.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a popularity contest for sure.
No, I think when we signed up, we had a conversation with a previous editor-in-chief, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we had to at like a middle point of the year, we had to find a HR person in our team, like a person that was like outside of every friend group, so everyone could go and talk with them about the problems that they had with the other like board members." And we were like, "Yeah, that might be a good idea because I didn't want them to hate me by the end of it."
I like that you were calling it the HR person. That's great. I think we need to suggest that for the future Situa teams.
Yeah, no, we're going for corporate vibes, so.
That's a good thinking. That's a good planning. And well, that sounds like there's been challenges, but also has been a lot of success. Can we maybe have a little sneak peek into the upcoming publication? Did you have any favorites? I know it's so hard to say, so hard to judge, but did you have any favorites?
I don't want to pick favorites from the articles because that feels kind of mean because they are all very beautiful. But we received a comic that we will publish. It's 3 pages long and it's absolutely gorgeous. It was created by
I think her pseudonym is Senta. It's an Italian artist. Because we also have, aside from academic submissions, we also have creative pieces. So we will include one comic. I think we have 2 short stories and a couple of poems as well. Because this behind this idea of community of memories, we thought it would be kind of interesting to include other written forms as well as other forms that relate to books, such as like imagery.
Yeah, exactly. I think the working with the creative pieces is always the most fun for me because that's kind of the my area of expertise. But it was really interesting to work with the academic pieces. And what I really, really love about our edition is that we have such a wide range of topics. Like maybe a little sneak peek, we have Chinese ceramics as a topic. We also have silent book clubs. We have Scottish topics. We have digital things. Like there's so much. Like we're gonna structure it from earliest to latest. We have kind of a topic to fill every single step of the way, and I think that's really, really fascinating.
I'm really jealous because I would love to get a comic for Satura, even though I'm just there for advice for Satura, so I can't even claim Satura anymore. But we really try to get art, and I think it's gotten better over the last couple of issues, but we have become more of a creative student journal lately and less of an academic journal. So we're trying to get people more involved in academic writing for us now. But I wonder, do you all have a set number of submissions or like page number that you like to stick with for the journal?
I mean, kind of. Like it's not set in stone, but most of the issues have around 150 pages. And I think it's kind of what's been working for everyone with like printing prices and how much sponsors are willing to pay. So I think we're gonna end up slightly over that, but we can't go too much over it. So there is a limit on pieces we can accept.
I wondered if it would be okay to go back a little bit to something Celine said a minute ago about how you said working on the creative pieces is more fun for you because that's kind of more your area of expertise, but you found some interest in working on the academic articles as well. I had a really similar experience when it was my year to be the editor, because I also do creative writing. And then I found out that I really loved working on the academic pieces, and I am now creating my ultimate theory of like academic writing as a type of creative writing. And I wondered if you had any kind of thoughts that have come to you as you've been doing this process that you start to see academic writing as also an expression of creativity.
Honestly, yeah, absolutely. That's a great point because I felt like I could really use my creative background to also like edit these pieces because there are a lot of similarities. Like it's about information, but every person writes differently. Every person has different interests, puts different like focuses on different kinds of specifics. So yeah, absolutely. That's actually I never really thought about it that way, but I think it totally fits.
Yeah, I last year worked as an editor on a literary like analysis piece using affect theory that was one of the most beautiful pieces of writing I had ever come across. And it was a literary paper, and I was just really overwhelmed by the idea that you could just choose to write academically in such a beautiful way. So it was a fun experience.
Thank you. I think this is also something special about editing academic pieces, that we do strive for particular style, particular objectivity, but at the same time, everyone has their voice, right? And as an editor, you always try to, sort of like follow the standards of the field, but also maintain as much of the authorial voice as possible. And I feel like that is always such a hard thing to balance. Lena, do you have any favorites or anything that you think was really striking?
To be honest, I had made a decision quite early that I will not be involved in the article editing process. So I decided that it will be a surprise for me. I know roughly what the topics are about, and I have seen the comic and I've seen the poems that we received, but I decided not to read them and kind of see the final product. I think it will be a gift for myself to like kind of experience it for the first time, because I think it's also beautiful that you can be involved with something and then still have like an element of surprise to it.
Well, I feel like that's what we also have been having with Satura in the last couple of years, when each of us, Laura, Bethany, and me, we've been at some point like editors of the magazine. And now we see other people doing that. So we only get to see the final product at a launch party. Just thank you for inviting us. Because that is always such a pleasure. After that sleepless year, oh my gosh, to just see the results and see it going on is fascinating. Right. In addition to all this endless work and creative work at that as well, do you get any time to, relax and pick up a book for fun, something to read?
While I was writing my thesis, no.
Oh, yeah,
But
sorry.
now that it's done, yes, again, finally.
Are you reading anything fun at the moment? Anything interesting? And we listen and we don't judge.
Whatever
We have
has.
used this podcast to talk about fan fiction we're reading, romance novels, all kinds of things. So don't be ashamed.
Actually, the last book I finished is Iron Widow, which I really loved. But Lena and I talked about it yesterday, and we had some differences there. But I really loved that book. I thought it was fascinating.
Not the first
Yeah.
time Xiran Zhao comes up in our podcast, actually.
Well, we were talking about them as an example of an author that's found a lot of success through their own social media marketing, and how that's not a good expectation to have, and the burnout that it can lead to. I don't know. That may be something Lena can talk about, because you're in charge of doing like the social media and marketing and stuff for your publication this year, right?
I mean, we have people who are working on it, and we have kind of realized that it's not that efficient to promote academic articles through Instagram because they won't find their audience there. But yeah, I also found the authors through social media because I have background in Chinese studies. So I was like, oh, sci-fi or like a fantasy with like Chinese background, how fascinating. And I think I got the book like the first week it was released, but I did not enjoy it as much as I hoped I would. So
Oh no. Well, I really liked it, full disclosure, but I mean, everyone has their own tastes. What have you been reading that you've been enjoying recently?
recently so for the last year I actually read maybe like 4 books because I read so much stuff for like the essays I have to write. But now I'm kind of trying to go back to the books that I enjoyed as a teenager, and now I'm rereading Master and Margarita by Bulgakov. Because I read it first time when I was 12 and it like absolutely blew my mind. And now I'm reading it again. It's kind of like a different perspective on the war, different perspective on the author himself. But I'm still enjoying it. So
That's fantastic. That book has been sitting on my shelf for about a year and a half. Maybe it's time to finally pick it up and read it.
yeah, though I will support my partner to read it too. So.
It's a great book. I love it. And I hear every once in a while opinions like, oh, if you loved it when you were a teenager, it's great. But if you love it as an adult, that's kind of weird. And I'm like, hey, no, no, I will defend this book. I will die
Yeah,
on
no.
this hill.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I think I had the different opinions about it when I was reading it as a teenager, and now I enjoy it for kind of different reasons. But I still enjoy it, so I think it's a beautiful that you can kind of get like have one work and it kind of or like one book or one film or one TV series and it kind of goes through life with you, but then you just look at it from different perspectives.
Yeah, and I feel like when you get older, you probably feel a bit more empathy towards Pontius Pilate and his constant headaches. Like,
I started having migraines when I turned like 24 or something. And I like my migraines are horrible. And now I was reading that and I was like, damn, damn, I know what you're going through.
and you're like, oh, the devil in Moscow, oh, all these like balls and the politics and the accommodation question, let's call it that. And then you're like, no, the poor guy is having the worst of migraines ever. And that's at the
Exactly.
time when there was no painkillers for that. And I'm like, God, I learned to appreciate it with time. Not the romantic line of it, not the sacrificial line of it, but like just that poor little responsible guy having all the migraines. Are there any other books that you think you would recommend to our listeners or to us? Um, Maybe something along the lines of Community of Memories or something else that, like kind of pops into your mind.
Yeah, we were talking about it, and I realized I haven't really read a book that's like specifically Community of Memories. But then I kept thinking, and I really, really love reading new Sherlock Holmes books. Like you read, it's basically fan fiction. It's published fan fiction, but I love them so, so much. And I feel like it's such an interesting way to connect with the past. Like it's such a big fandom, and it's so old, but people still love it so much. For me, it kind of fits the topic, and I always love Sherlock Holmes. The originals are great, and the new stories, honestly, great too.
I think some of them are written by Horowitz. Oh my goodness, I forgot. Anthony Horowitz, who I admit has some issues in his writing that may or may not be a thing. But also kind of he is a great storyteller. He's doing a good job. There are some questions to particular elements of representation, but I feel like as a storytelling expert, he's really showing his worth. It is so much fun to read. Like I swallow the books.
I especially love the ones by Bonnie McBird. I think she does a really great job, but I also really, really love the Enola Holmes series. Like when I was younger, that one I read that so quickly. It was amazing.
Maybe that's also a little bit of like tendency for us nowadays to go back to what we read when we were younger. Isn't it like sort of like coming back to these memories of books and rereading them, experiencing them again at a different stage of our lives?
It can be fun, but I realized recently, I reread a book that I really loved as a teenager and then found out it wasn't actually very good. It's just one of those, oh man, was that a really good book or did I just read it when I was 16? Um, and so I've kind of become a little bit gun shy about rereading books that I loved when I was younger because I'm like, oh my God, what if I find out it was terrible and I ruined it for myself?
All I can think is that poor Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is still, my God, why can't I get rid of Sherlock Holmes in his grave now?
Is there even a more sticky character?
I mean, Arthur Conan Doyle accidentally created one of the most beloved characters in all of literature, and he'll just have to live with having that as his legacy. There are worse legacies to have.
I have recently read a book by a Polish writer, Olga Tokarczuk. I think she received Nobel Prize a couple of years ago, and I read a book called, oh my God, it has a long name. Drive Your Plow over the bones of the dead, I think it's called. Yeah. And it kind of like the protagonist is an older woman named Janina, and she lives in mountains on Polish and Czech border. And it's kind of like a mystery crime novel because like halfway through we discover that there are people dying and all of them belong to the hunting community. And Janina, she has this kind of special connection with nature. She's really into astrology and she believes that animals are taking revenge on the people. And I kind of love how through her narration we kind of experience how memory operates on a like personal level, but kind of how it also can be a sort of mode of resistance against some official narratives that in her case are constructed by this like conservative, religious, patriarchal environment just that she lives in. And yeah, her recollection kind of becomes sort of like disruption of a collective memory of her village. So I thought it was very beautiful.
So speaking of Tokarczuk, I think, again, social media related, what I think very cute is Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal reading Olga Tokarczuk on a beach somewhere, like sitting there with this book, and someone snapped a photo of him and posted it. And I'm like, of course he does. Of course.
I'm really fascinated that this is like the new thing in the last couple of years with celebrities that they want to get caught by the paparazzi reading books. I'm like, you could do a whole book studies paper on that.
Well, it's the bookshelves phenomenon, I think, filtering into the real world. You know, people have been fascinated since the Zoom interview became with the pandemic, seeing what books are behind people. So I think people became more curious about what people's reading habits are. So I
I
think
do also think there is a very tiny link to my thesis topic here about the perfect person is attractive and fit and successful and reads. So
I discovered this book through Dua Lipa podcast. Even though I've heard about the author before, but then I saw an interview with Dua Lipa and I was like, oh, okay, maybe now it's time to read it.
And I mean, yeah, like that's something I find also like as a great tendency, considering all this debate of what's the word, anti-intellectualism of book talk and bookstagram and booktube and so on. And I find this like a really nice counterbalance kind of element. Of course, if people actually go ahead and read the books. But we're not going to be policing that.
well, then you're going to open up the drama about which books are academic and intellectual and which books are just trash for the masses or whatever. All we can say is read what you want to read. Reading is wonderful.
read trash. Everybody needs to read some
Everybody
trash.
should read some trash. Listen, when you sit down to watch TV and you want a snack, you want popcorn. You don't want a 3-course meal.
But I would actually also say read TXT. Do we already have publication date for the upcoming journal?
Yeah, our launch event, which you will be invited. for will be on 26th of September in The Hague. If you can come. If not, it's also we will send you a copy. And there'll be the date when the journal will be available in person, in a printed copy, and online as well.
Fantastic. So everyone, save the date for the online publications as well. God bless online publications. Honestly, I'm thinking back to my first degree back in Omsk in Russia, and I'm like, yeah, you go to the library, you get the book if someone hasn't checked it out before you, and with the journal, and that's all you have. And then, yeah, nowadays we have so much access to things. So yeah, I guess that's our general message. Read more. Read TXT. We're going to link everything in the description to this episode. And thank you so much, Lena and Celine, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It was a pleasure to look into the sort of what's happening backstage at making such an amazing publication. All right.
Yeah, it's nice to actually talk about the details of TXT aside from just, hanging out with people who are in TXT, to actually know more about it for a change and what's behind it.
With someone who has similar experience too.
We can all cry together, sit in a circle, feel like, oh, what was that?
We'll see if we can make it to the launch party so we can just be like, and now here is the entire bottle of whiskey you're going to drink now that it's over.
It is funny, but also in our very first launch party for Satura, I remember that we also decorated everything ourselves. Then I remember we had a lot of wine, and then someone asked us to give a speech. We did not plan on that. But by that moment, I was like, speech.
I couldn't speak at all. I was just like dumbstruck. Too much, winding down after doing this. And poor Natalia had to make the speech.
Honestly, I don't remember what happened there. So that was
the best.
Yeah. So the best feeling is really just having the journal in your hands after all this struggle.
Yeah.
And fun struggle. And
You
fun.
guys are going to feel so amazing when you're actually holding the physical copy. You have no idea.
We're very excited for it.
Thank you so much again for joining us today, and have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.